This week on Painting Lines.
Djokovic, Sinner, Alcaraz sitting out this tournament. Draper. This could be exciting.
Musetti has been a huge threat on clay, and outside of that isn't really much of a problem. This is exactly where I expected him to lose, to be honest.
Ready?
Welcome back to another episode of Painting Lines. Last week we touched on Bublik and Darderi going back to back on the clay, Minaur winning in DC, and this week we'll recap the first four rounds of the Canada Open and discuss the quarterfinal matchups coming up. Quick reminder, we have merch available. The link is in our website, and as always, feel free to like and subscribe. It's a great way to show your support for the show. All right, Aidan, let's jump in here. We like to start our recaps, with the upsets. And I want to ask you this. Is Tsitsipas losing to O'Connell even an upset? Because I know technically it is because, he was seeded, but is it even worth mentioning Tsitsipas's early exits every single week? And what are your expectations for him going forward, especially in Cincinnati in the US Open?
Well, I feel like you have to just look at the year-to-date rankings to consider whether it's actually an upset. And you look at guys like Shapovalov and Greek Spore. Are those guys losing an upset? Maybe Shapo. Greek Spore, I don't think we would really ever mention as being like, oh, it's crazy that he lost early. And those are the guys ranked right above and below him in the 2025 year-to-date rankings. So at this point, it's like, yeah, it's a little surprising. You might mention it, but there's no point in really breaking it down because we're not super shocked when we see him lose in an early round.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like he's still kind of riding on the coattails of his previous success, where like the name Tsitsipas does warrant you to talk about an early exit, but realistically, yeah, I would group him into that like Chapo Greek sport kind of thing where, you know, if you're ranked in the top five, obviously it's a big shock upset. You're going to get mentioned. Top 10, same. Top 20, it might be mentioned, but not every time. But outside the top 20, I don't really think it's worth mentioning as an upset because we talked about this before. Like there is such a drop off in talent level, right? Between like the top 15, top 20 versus the rest of the guys. So I feel like outside the top 20, it's not as much of an upset. They're more equal,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Feels more like we would bring it up in passing, like, oh, and this guy
Hmm.
lost too.
Yeah, I still feel like though, just like even though Tsitsipas will continue to early exit, he's still going to get mentioned just because I think he deserves the respect. What do you
Well,
think?
should we start talking about every time Wawrinka loses early?
No, but I feel like Wawrinka is old. He's at the end of his career.
I mean,
Tsitsipas
I
is
mean,
this is fairly new.
is he? Is he really? I mean, it looks like he's on the end of his career too.
Oh man, that would be just too bad because you know we'll get into this a little later, but I
Well,
feel
I'll
like
give you another one. Should we
okay,
mention every time Berrettini loses early?
no,
Feels pretty
no.
similar. I know Tsitsipas had a higher peak than Berrettini, but it's still like it's not really that much of an upset at this point.
So what the second part of the question, do you have any expectations for him, the rest of the hardcourt swing in Cincinnati in the US Open? Or are you thinking early exits for the next month?
I mean, if he made it through two rounds at the U.S. Open, I feel like that's a success.
I was gonna say that's kind of what I expect.
Yeah, it's like if he makes it any further than that, I would be actually surprised.
Yeah. But let's get into the upsets here. So I feel like it was pretty quiet. The first one I want to mention is Fonseca. He lost 7-6, 6-4 to School Kit in round one. Like, do you think Fonseca is overhyped, or do you think he just kind of had a bad day here?
I think it's just he's so kind of raw. It's so early on in his career, and it's like he's not going to come out there every week and have that consistent greatness that you see from players that have developed to a top level. He has the tools. He just doesn't have like the consistency yet, I think.
Yeah, this was kind of anticlimactic because, with all the top tier talent, Djokovic, Sinner, Alcaraz sitting out this tournament, Draper, you kind of thought, all right, this could be exciting. This could potentially be, a deep run for Fonseca, but those dreams just get dashed first round.
Yeah, not great, but like I like I said, I think it's just he has the tools and he's so explosive. It's like that match that he played against Draper. in Indian Wells. I remember you were talking about it and being like, he hit 80 errors in the second
Yeah.
set. It's like, yeah, you can't win matches if you're that inconsistent. And like I said, he's so explosive. His forehand is one of the best on tours when it's on, but when it's not, it's just almost a detriment.
Yeah, hopefully this kind of takes some of the pressure off of him because you know what happens when you tend to climb too fast and you don't really live up to your expectations. I feel like the crash is a lot harder. So I feel like I'd rather see him with a slower, more progressive climb than just like to start coming out right off the gate and winning tournaments. So I'm not too upset about this. I feel like, people wanted to hype him up a lot after he won the next gen finals, but he's still got a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, definitely a lot of room to grow.
All right, next up, I want to mention the Canadians, FAA and Chapo. Only mentioning them because this is the Canada Open. I feel like, they were seeded, so got to mention them. But yeah, FAA losing to Morojan. I feel like this kind of was expected or not. I'm
Yeah.
not surprised. Let's just put it that way.
It's a textbook where you're like, okay, not only is it an upset master, it's also a guy that's known to get upset. So, like
I
you
was,
said,
yeah,
not surprising.
I was gonna say this just like fit everything. And then Shapovalov, he loses to Lerner Tien. This one maybe a little more surprising, but I can see why Lerner Tien had such a good matchup because Shapovalov is such a loose cannon and Lerner Tien kind of plays more steady. So this, when someone like Shapo, who has a very high upside but doesn't always play to that upside, just kind of hits a lot of errors, this is right up Lerner Tien's alley.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just gonna go until you make the mistake that I know you're gonna make.
Yeah, lefty matchup too.
Yeah. But then you did have Diallo making it through his first match. So like you said, maybe he's the Canadian new hope.
Yeah, right. And then let's move over to the third round, second round, first round kind of quiet. As I mentioned, we got Medvedev losing to Popyrin.
Yeah, this was a bummer. I mean, I was rooting for Medvedev, and he had a lot of chances in the second set. Like he had a great opportunity to break back. I think he led uh Love 40 in one of those games, and he just couldn't get it done. And it's sad to see him not able to win matches like this.
Yeah, I was wondering, is it Popyrin playing up to the level or is it Medvedev playing down in this case?
Well, it does feel like Popyrin is playing at a very high level. That's what's so interesting about it. Is like Popyrin has done very little this whole year, and then he comes to Canada where he won last year, and all of a sudden is playing at this incredible level again. And you're like, "What's going on, dude? Just like show us something the rest of the year. Don't just like pop up for this one random tournament."
Yeah, I know. And I feel like he has a lot at stake here, right? Because if he doesn't hold on to these points, he's going to drop. Because, like you said, he hasn't really done much the rest of the year.
Yeah, no, I mean he was ranked in the year-to-date rankings coming into this tournament like in the mid 50s or something. So
Okay.
it was pretty low for sure. And even if he wins this, he still is only going to be like number 19, which is crazy. I mean, you look at Mensik. Mensik hasn't had a crazy year, but he's still like number like 15 in the year-to-date rankings because of his Masters 1000 win. And Popyrin's done probably even less than that.
Wow. Yeah, then next up we got Musetti. He loses to Michelsen, which Musetti was what, the third or fourth seed here? That is it's a big loss, but are you surprised by it?
Yeah, I mean, it really feels as though Musetti has been a massive clay rat this year. He's 19-4 on clay, and then he's 6-5 on hard courts, and obviously 0-1 at Wimbledon. So it's not been the best on other surfaces other than clay for Musetti this year. And I think last year we did talk about that, and we gave him a little bit of credit because he did great at Wimbledon. But it does seem like he's almost becoming like the next Tsitsipas, where he's a huge threat on clay, and outside of that, isn't really uh, much of a problem.
Yeah, I got the one hander too, so drawing some more parallels. I feel like Musetti also had that injury too, so I'm kind of chalking it up a little bit to that. I don't know if he's 100% healed, but hats off to Mickelson because it was a pretty tight match and he played well.
Yeah, but still, I mean, 6-5, like that's across the whole year. So
Yeah, that's true.
wasn't playing great before the injury either.
That is true. And then as you mentioned, Diallo, he kind of sneaks through here. He gets into round three, but Fritz takes him out 4-2 pretty easy. I thought that after the five setter they played in Wimbledon a couple weeks ago, that Fritz could potentially be in trouble here, or at least it would be a closer match. But this was just, very one-sided.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of brings up the question to me of like, is Fritz actually more favored on hard or grass, particularly in with this matchup? Because I feel like generally you might actually favor him more on grass, but based on how Diallo has done on grass, obviously winning a tournament this year, I wonder if in that matchup he's actually less favored.
Yeah, I think you got to put more of a premium on Diallo's serve on grass because, Fritz is an excellent player, but he's no Deminar when it comes to breaking serve, and Diallo's serve is just even stronger on grass. And, just based off these two results, I think you got to you favor Fritz on both surfaces, but you discount him more on grass, if
Yeah,
that
like
makes
the
sense.
way I would break it down is like if you said, okay, Fritz on hard court is whatever, an 8 out of 10 player. And then you go on grass, he's a 9 out of 10 now. And but you go with Diallo and you're like, okay, but with Diallo on hard court, he's a 6 out of 10. And on grass, he's an 8 out of 10. So it's like it's a closer matchup, even if Fritz is a better player.
Yeah, I know. All right, moving on down to the fourth round, we saw some next gen guys, Michelsen and Tien. Both of them played in the next gen finals tournament, but didn't play each other. Michelsen won this 3-3 pretty handedly. Maybe just more experience than Tien. I don't know. What do you think?
I think part of it is like Mickelson just maybe having a good matchup. I know that you won their last matchup in Houston, 4-2, and I think that Mickelson also it's not really massive experience. They're both around the same age, but it is like Mickelson is ranked higher still, so I think he maybe he's played in slightly more big tournaments like this. I'm not 100% sure though.
Yeah, yeah, no, Mickelsen's playing great though. We'll talk about it later, but into the quarterfinals, I feel like his breakout, he had it early on and then he hasn't really done a whole lot. So, this could be, one of the young guys who we see maybe not win it, but make a deep run here at a Masters 1000.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think he hasn't had that many crazy performances since he kind of showed up in what was it, Newport last year.
Hmm.
But it also has been like he hasn't played poorly either. He's collected wins. He's done solid at a lot of tournaments, which is something that I feel like you don't often see from those young guys. You often see them like, oh, they make a massive run here and then they lose first round the next one. I feel like he's done pretty consistent overall.
Yeah, very consistent. But where do you think he stacks up with all the other Americans? Because I feel like when we talk about Americans, he kind of gets overlooked. We don't really mention him. Do you agree?
We don't really mention him. That's true. I think especially because he's such a young guy, we maybe overlook him. It's tough. It's tough to rank him there because you don't want to put him over someone like Nakashima, and but that's kind of almost where you want to put him, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was pretty spot on. And then we got Casper Ruud. He loses to Khachanov. I feel like this is a pretty decent tournament for Ruud, fourth round of a hardcore Masters 1000. Like, what were your expectations for him here?
I think this is exactly where I expected him to lose, to be honest. Uh, it made perfect sense to me. I think that it's a decent run from him in terms of what we've seen from him on hard court the past few years. And Khachanov, not a bad player. And so it's just kind of exactly what I expected.
Yeah, and also just classic case of Khachanov, cruising on into the quarterfinals,
Yeah,
overlooked.
exactly. No one was like, oh, Khachanov, he'll be in the quarters.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we saw the same thing from Khachanov at Wimbledon, right? Like everyone in his little group disappeared, and all of a sudden he was in the quarterfinals playing against Fritz. He just gets it done when he has the opportunity.
He does. And then how about Popyrin? So we got the defending champ. He goes into the quarterfinals. He beats Runa. And crazy stat that I saw on social media, Popyrin has won 7 of his last 9 matches against top 10 players.
Yeah, I mean, just what a confusing guy. Like he's also weirdly dropped the first set in his last two matches, and then just been like, ah, yeah, now I'll just start playing really well. It's just so strange that this is his level only in Canada, right? I guess also at the U.S. Open against Djokovic, but why is he only good in this one tournament? Like, why? What makes Canada so special for him? And I don't know. It's just crazy to see a guy that can step it up like this, but then the rest of the year just kind of be invisible.
Yeah, I have a hypothesis. Maybe it takes him, 7, 8 months to get going and like get used to it. And then after the clay, you have grass, and then hard court is his favorite surface. And he's kind of just pent up, ready to play at this point.
Yeah, and then he goes over to East Asia and is like, "Ah, I'm just not used to the time change."
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. Even though he should
he's
be
from,
being
I was
from
about to say, he's from
Australia.
Australia. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, just very confusing player overall. How about Rublev? Rublev, he faced Davidovich Fokina and got a little lucky. He gets a walkover. It did go 3 sets. Rublev was up 3-0 in the third set, and then Davidovich Fokina retired. So maybe, what do you think? A little lucky? I think Davidovich Fokina is just playing great tennis right now. So,
I think it's just really tough for Davidovich to play that many matches that quickly. Uh, just saw a stat that said he played like 8 matches in 10 days, which is not easy for anyone, especially at this level. So after 2 tiebreak sets, I just think he was ready to to be done. And just Rublev is a pretty brutal guy to go against. Doesn't give you any break really with that forehand.
oh yeah, he just strangles you with it, just pounds. Anyway,
Exactly.
I think I saw some beef on Instagram briefly. So I was looking at stories and I saw Dan Evans had posted a screenshot of Davidovich Fokina writing an email complaining to either the ATP or Tennis Canada about his match times because apparently he was playing at 11 a.m., which to him, now that you're putting things in perspective, eight matches over the last 10 days, like it's tough to wake up that early, get prepared, drive over to the stadium and everything. He felt that he was kind of being treated unfairly where other players were getting to start at 12:30. Anyway, Dan Evans made a comment, was like, get over it, bro. People in the real world work from 9 to 5 or even 8 to 5. Like this isn't a big deal. So don't really know what came of that. I'll try to look and do some more due diligence on why those players had beef, but apparently Dan Evans was pissed off that Davidovich Fokina complained about his early start date.
I mean, I think that there's an argument for both sides here. I think that Dan Evans is right to an extent, that obviously it's not the most difficult job out there to be a professional tennis player. But I think on Davidovic's side, it's like, well, he's not complaining that, oh, this is just how it is. Like, he's not saying, oh, we need to change the whole tennis system. He's saying, why am I getting treated differently than the other players? Like, why am I getting the non-preferential treatment?
Hmm.
And I think that's more of the argument, which Dan Evans isn't really addressing in his comment. He's just
Yeah,
saying,
no,
get over it. Oh, it could be harder. And Davidic is like, well, I know it could be harder, but I'm saying other players have it easier.
yeah. And Dan Evans, I forgot to mention, he called him a sausage. He's
Yeah.
like, what a sausage.
Yeah. What an insult. But anyway, I think that about wraps up what we were talking about there with the recap. So let's just jump into a little quarterfinal preview here. Starting off with Zverev versus Popyrin. I feel like this is just a great opportunity for Popyrin to maybe collect another massive win. Or like, do you think the hype is finally going to finish up here?
I do think it is going to finish up here. I do think Zverev is going to win, but Zverev has looked a little shaky. He's gone 3 sets in the previous rounds. He's kind of known for being a choke artist. Don't want to jinx it, but I still think he gets it done. One thing you did mention about Popper dropping his first set, kind of casually here, maybe this could be a good opportunity to bet this thing goes 3 sets. But either way, I think it goes 3 sets, but I think Zverev wins.
Yeah, I mean, my issue is just is if Zverev plays too passive, I think Popyrin is going to actually win the match
Hmm.
because Zverev, if when he plays really passive, he just gives his opponent opportunities to like step in and take over. And based on how Popyrin's been playing, he actually I think has the level. If he continues how he kind of has in some of these other matches, he could do it.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially with Popper's size and ability to crush the ball. He could easily step up, step in, and kind of give Zverev a hard time here. So It all depends. I think Zverev has to make an adjustment. I don't think he can afford to play passively here. That's why I think it goes 3 sets. I think Zverev maybe plays passive the first set, realizes it, and then makes the adjustment.
Yeah. And then next we got Michelsen Khachanov. These are a pair of guys that I don't think we expected to be this far in the tournament, but it would definitely be a big win for either guy, but from very different points in their career. Obviously, Michelsen, very young guy on the rise. It would probably be his first Masters 1000 semi, if I'm not mistaken. And then Khachanov on the other side is a guy where is has been at higher points in his career, is at a spot where he hasn't had that many crazy highlights other than the Wimbledon quarterfinal, but uh, making it to a semi or even making it to a final of a Masters 1000 would be a massive deal for him.
Yeah, definitely an interesting matchup because when you look at the other quarterfinal matchups, very well-known names, I feel like these are two guys who kind of, fought their way through. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm pretty content with either outcome. Just,
Yeah.
big
I
result
mean,
for either, like you said.
yeah, arguably Popyrin not the biggest name, but
But
I think
Zverev, I guess
because
like the matchup,
yeah,
like there is a
also
Zverev in
because
there.
it's a big matchup because he won it last year, so he's the
Yeah, yeah,
defending
yeah,
champ.
exactly.
And then up next, we got Rublev versus Fritz. I feel like this is just going to be like a forehand session. It's like a ball machine. They go out there and just pound the forehand until one of them misses.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Rublev really stands a chance here, especially with the way Fritz has been battling and playing here. But yeah, this will be a lot of forehands, forehand clinic, and hopefully, actually, no, I'm not going to say it. I was going to say hopefully we get to see some Rublev outbursts, but I kind of feel bad for him. Like I don't love
100%.
to
Yeah,
see
you
it.
feel
Yeah,
bad when he just
it's
explodes like
entertaining in the
that.
moment. Yeah, especially because I just watched that ATP kind of mini doc they did on him about like his rise up and then his decline and just his like mental state right now. And he's such a good guy. Like Rublev is so hard to not like.
100%. Yeah. Do you think Fritz is the favorite to win the tournament right now?
Yes, I do. And he's
Yeah,
on opposite sides of Zverev too. And we know how he plays against Zverev. So
exactly. That's what I was thinking is like, yeah, hypothetically, he's not the top seed, but he has beaten Zverev a bunch of times in a row, right?
yeah, I like his chances here.
And then the last quarterfinal, we got Minaur versus Shelton. This is actually their first matchup ever, and I feel like it's very interesting because we're looking at pretty much polar opposite play styles. I feel like we're like with Shelton, he has massive serve, massive forehand, is looking to finish points early. On the other hand, you have Minaur, who's just trying to scramble around and get everything back.
Yeah, I think I like Deminar in this just because of the way Shelton played against Kaboli last night. He was kind of having a hard time holding serve. I felt like even when he was, the games were going to deuce. And Deminar, I think he's the best breaker of serve, like serve breaker on tour right now. So I think he can do some damage on Shelton's serve.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of funny because you look at yes, he's a great at breaking serve, but it's like he's great of the rest, right? Like you look at Sinner and Alcaraz, they're probably better than Deminar like pretty much every category, other
Yeah.
than like speed, probably.
Yeah.
And even then, it's pretty close with Alcaraz and Deminar.
Yes, yes. Well, I guess point is Deminar's good at breaking serve, and Shelton has looked a little shaky on serve, even though he can pound 145-mile-an-hour serves. Like it's
100%.
just, I
Yeah.
don't know. If I'm Deminar, maybe I'm taking some serve practice, like having my hitting partner stand at the service line and just rip serves at
Yeah,
me.
he's calling up GMP like, "Hey, I need you to come out here and just hit 160 at me."
Yeah, yeah, I know. What do you think? Because you're a Deminar fan. Are you kind of
I mean,
biased here? Or are
I'd
you?
like to see Deminar win, but I feel like it when you have someone so explosive like Shelton, if his serve just happens to be on that day, all of a sudden Deminar can look useless. I mean, when Deminar played Draper in the U.S. Open last year in the quarterfinals, like it really felt like Deminar should win the match. And then if you actually watched each game, his service games felt like he was just barely holding on, and Draper's service games felt super easy. And
Mhm.
so that can happen if Shelton's serve is on, where all of a sudden Deminar's barely surviving in his service games and Shelton's cruising.
Yeah, Draper's a lefty, just like Shelton. So I don't know if there's any coincidence there or what. We'll see.
Yeah. But anyway, you ready to hop into segments here?
Yeah, let's do it. Hey guys, before we jump in, we have some exciting news. We recently partnered with TruePro. They're a great place to buy strings, grips, and tennis apparel. Use discount code Painting Lines, that's one word, for 20% off store wide. You can find the link in our bio.
Alrighty, what's new in tennis? What did you see this week?
I saw some drama, man, some juicy things that I know you got your finger on the pulse, so I'm sure you already know all this, but something funny, Runa DM'd a Russian tennis player, Veronika Kudermetova. So she went on a podcast over the last weekend and kind of admitted, she was like, "Oh yeah, I have a funny story. Runa DM'd me or slid in her DMs, whatever." And then her response was, "Boy, I'm too old." And he kind of was like, "Oh, sorry." And she said, when they see each other now at tournaments, he just ignores her. They don't even talk. And she's also married. So I feel like she could have been like, "Oh, sorry, I'm married." But, just said she was too old. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then other news on the relationship side of tennis, Draper and Badosa are playing mixed doubles together at the Open.
Yeah,
Pretty juicy there because Draper was supposed to play with Zhang, and obviously Badosa was supposed to play with Tsitsipas before they broke up. So I feel like this, maybe could have been, I don't know, maybe a new relationship sparking right here.
I mean, what happened with Zhang? Who's she playing with now?
She had to pull out. She's getting elbow surgery,
Yeah, well, I mean, then the argument is, isn't that just that like they?
but they still need to get the wild card. So it's not like either, like they were submitting for wild cards because I don't think Badosa could get in on her own. I think Draper might have. So he still had to pick a partner. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but
Like
I
they
mean,
still have to.
they give out wild cards kind of random. I think Venus Williams even has a wild card for the mixed doubles, and she's like
Yes.
45.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. All I'm saying is I feel like if I was Tsitsipas, I'd be pretty pissed here because
Yeah.
it's not like he's playing with another girl, which I don't know.
I mean, I
He
don't think he's in the tournament, right?
he's not in the U.S. Open.
Not in the mixed doubles anymore.
Yeah, but he could have submitted into it. He could have found a partner and then submitted for a wild card, just like she did.
Maybe he didn't even want to do it.
Yeah. Maybe his dad wouldn't let
That's
him.
why they broke up actually, is because she was like, "Hey, we're gonna do this mixed doubles," and he was like, "No, no, 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 no."
Yeah, they both like early exit at Wimbledon. They're like, yeah, I think playing mixed doubles at the US Open would be such a great idea.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know about that one. I think we need to break up.
Yeah. How about you? What did you see this week?
I saw that the Belgrade Open actually got moved to Greece. Uh, so
Whoa.
it no longer the Belgrade Open, but it's kind of funny because it's a tournament that is essentially owned by Djokovic. So he just made like the executive decision, like, no, Belgrade doesn't have the conditions right now. We're just moving it, and so now it's taking place in a different time and in different spots. So pretty wild. They can just pick up a tournament and move it like that.
That is pretty wild. Do you know what the conditions were?
I don't know exactly what they were. I just read the article briefly and saw the headline there that they're moving it, which is just wild to me.
Yeah, that is pretty wild. Especially because before, remember we were saying like, oh yeah, Djokovic could potentially retire at the Belgrade Open or at least like get a major title
Yeah,
there.
we
But
thought it was going to be his 100th at the
yeah, now there's just
Belgrade
no
Open.
significance of it.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
He's like,
unless, yeah,
whatever. I'm just gonna go to Greece because I like hanging out there.
yeah, he's like executive decision. We're going to
Exactly,
Greece.
exactly. And then how about bet of the week? What'd you go for here?
Bet of the week, I'm going with Alex Michelsen plus 180 over Khachanov. Michelsen is 1-0 against him in the head-to-head, and they played earlier this year at the Australian Open. Michelsen actually beat him in 3 sets, so I kind of like the matchup here. Also, it truly feels like a 50-50, could go either way. So with the plus 180, I just got to go with Mickelson here.
Yeah, 100%. I completely respect that bet. I think that's a very solid pick. I think the only reason Khachanov is probably a favorite is because of the name and the history. But I mean, you look at the stats there, him having the head-to-head lead and just like where they're at, the rise of Mickelson seems like a great bet.
Yep. How about you? Who are you taking?
I'm going with another prop bet. Worked last week, so let's go for another one. I'm going with Shelton Deminar plus 105 to go 3 sets. If I were to predict it, I think Shelton comes out strong and takes the first set with like his very explosive game, and then Deminar just kind of just leans on him, wears on him, slowly grinds out the match, and forces it to a decider.
Yeah, I like that too. I'm also going to probably throw on this Zverev Popyrin over 2 sets as well.
Oh, you think it's going three?
I think it's going 3. I just kind of thought of that when we were doing this episode. So yeah, I agree with you here. I think, especially with the way Shelton has been playing and Deminar too, I feel like they've been recently going to 3 sets. Plus, it's kind of later on in the tournament too when people are getting a little tired, so they may not be playing 100% at all times.
100%. Exactly. I think it's one of those situations where I saw someone talk about it. Maybe it was Cole Schultz on one of his videos that uh, a lot of clay players, their goal in points is like, I don't even care if I win the point necessarily, but I want to just take as much energy out of you as possible. It feels like Deminar does that same thing, but only on like on all surfaces.
Yeah, no, like I said with Rublev earlier, how he'll strangle you with forehands. Deminar will slowly suffocate you with
Yeah,
his
he's like
forehands.
he's like you might even win this point, but you're gonna just
Yeah.
hate yourself after.
Yeah, it's a long game, you know.
Exactly, exactly. How about match of the week?
Match of the week. I went with Shelton beating Kaboli just because I watched this match through and through, and it was a pretty tense match too. It was 3 sets with a third set tiebreaker and some controversy at the end. Gotta love that. Kaboli was up 5-4 in the third set and had the chance to serve it out, but he couldn't get it done. I was rooting for Shelton this whole match, but once Kaboli couldn't serve it out, I kind of felt for him. I was like, now I just want to see good tennis. So like I said, very tense, but all Shelton in the tiebreaker. And they had a very heated, I wouldn't say very heated, but it was definitely heated, an exchange after, like during the handshake. They were kind of up there for a while. And then it even continued on after they shook the hands of the ref. Shelton had his shirt off, packing up, and Kaboli just kind of kept talking to him. I couldn't really understand because Kaboli's English wasn't that great, but the controversy was during the tiebreak. Shelton hit a winner, and Kaboli kind of like did a gesture, made a face that Shelton didn't like, and kind of complained about it. And then after the match, I think Kaboli was saying to Shelton, "Hey, I wasn't doing anything to disrespect you. I was just annoyed. Like it wasn't anything against you." And I think Shelton had taken it personally because he was like, "Well, all right, well, it doesn't matter. Like if you say it's not against me, it's not against me, but still, I'm gonna do stuff back." Like Kaboli's like, "Hey, come on, like we're friends." Sean's like, yeah, we are friends, but we're also playing a tennis match. And, it got a little heated. I do have to give Shelton credit because he was asked about this a lot after by the reporters. And he was like, hey, we talked about it in the locker room. We sorted it out. It's all good. No more questions. Thanks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. And then after the match, too, Kaboli, I think, was trying to win back over the crowd and gave his tennis racket to a little kid there, which was an
Mm.
awesome moment because the kid was so happy.
Yeah. I think the one thing about it is like you look at this situation, usually Shelton, you would still want him to shake his hand
Hmm.
at the end of that match, even if he is upset with him. And like he went up and Kaboli put out his hand and Shelton like just didn't shake it for
Hmm.
whatever it was, 10, 15 seconds. And you're
Yeah.
like, well, at that point, it's very clear that Kaboli's like, what's up, dude? Like I wasn't trying to disrespect you, and now you're clearly disrespecting me.
Yeah, no, exactly, exactly. And then like one of the conversation bits I heard during the whole ordeal was Shelton was like, "Oh yeah, and sorry about the match," and Caboli's like, "All right, well, it's just a match. I don't care about the match. Like whatever.
Yeah.
It's only one match." And I thought that was good for Caboli because like clearly, this is not just a match. I feel like this is a big match to get into the quarterfinals. You could have served and won it, and for him to kind of brush off the match is pretty honorable.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was your match of the week this week?
I'm going with the one that I think was not necessarily the closest, but very close and very fun, which was Deminar Tiafo. Just a ton of like scrambly points, getting around, getting up to the net, uh, sliding at the baseline, slicing it, extending it, and just really fun points overall. The first set, Deminar kind of had strong control over it. And then the second set kicked off with four straight breaks of serve. Then Tiafo ended up taking just critical time, breaks at 5-4 and takes the second set. And then in the final set, the crazy thing was that Deminar was able to get this break at 4-4 and go on to win the match. Tiafo actually almost got a break at 3-2 and had a crazy break point that Deminar managed to kind of sneak away. But speaking on that 4-4 game, it was deuce. And the Demon made one of the craziest gets I've ever seen, just in terms of like pure speed and anticipation, because Tiafoe hit 3 straight shots that against a lot of players would have been like clean winners. Like he stepped into one forehand, put it behind de Minaur, and de Minaur was able to like turn around and get it. And then Tiafoe came in and approached with another, like just ripped a forehand inside out, and de Minaur like full speed run gets it back again. And then Tiafoe puts this crazy little drop shot, like pickup from the net. And de Minaur full speed just manages to get to this drop shot, puts it back, and then Tiafoe puts it in the net. And I think the next point, Tiafoe just like had no confidence in his game. He went for like another drop shot, and de Minaur just stepped into it and took the game and ended up taking the match. So just some crazy points in that match overall. Really fun to watch. And then I also just want to mention the closest match was probably that Fritz. I mean, it had to be that Fritz marathon win over Lehechka, 7-6, 6-7, 7-6. But the thing about it was just a match where Lehechka's inability to win key points on Fritz's serve just completely ruined his chances. He had like a love 40 in the first set and couldn't break. He had multiple break point opportunities in different games and just wasn't able to get it done, and shows how a couple points can really change the dynamic of the match.
100%. I mean, definitely an honorable mention. If not, like, yeah, probably match of the week, just, not to us. But anyway, like that, it comes down to a couple points where Fritz could potentially win this title or he could have lost this match. And just disappointing that Lehechka couldn't capitalize, because he is a player that I do see, having good success in the future. And he's got to overcome this if he wants to start winning titles.
100%. Yeah.
And just going back to the Tiafoe de Minaur, like de Minaur has to be the most frustrating guy to play against, because I feel like, yeah, like you said, if you're Tiafoe and you're hitting what are supposed to be clean winners against other guys and de Minaur's getting it back, it wears on you mentally. It just kind of makes you second guess shots too. Like maybe you're taking an extra second to think, or like changing your mind right before you're hitting. So kudos to de Minaur. Like he is just wearing people down left and right. And I did catch some of this match too, and I heard the broadcaster say something funny about Tiafoe having like a stack of shirts on the sideline, because apparently he was changing his shirt super often because he was dripping sweat.
Yeah. de Minaur's out there like, yeah, it's whatever.
He's like, yeah, I'm used to this. All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.